It begins with nothing, no sound, no wind, only a stillness so complete it feels alive. Above you, a vast blinding sheet of white stretches to every horizon. The air is so cold it bites your breath in half before it reaches your lungs. This is Antarctica, the last true silence on Earth, a continent not of land, but of time itself, frozen, patient, unknowable. And yet, beneath this quiet, something moves. If you could press your ear against the ice, you might hear it. A low, ghostly murmur, the faint rush of something flowing beneath miles of frozen glass. It sounds impossible because down here, everything should be still. Everything should be dead. And yet, it isn't. Beneath this frozen skin lies a hidden world, a labyrinth of rivers and lakes, flowing in darkness, untouched by sun or sky for millions of years. The silence of Antarctica is not silence at all, it is whispering. Chapter 1: The White Silence. Once, long ago, before the ice came, this continent was green. Forests of beech and ferns grew where now only wind howls. Dinosaurs walked here, leaving footprints in mud that would someday freeze forever. Then, slowly, the earth tilted, cooled, and winter came. A winter that never left. The ice arrived like a slow tide of memory, layer upon layer of fallen snow compressed under its own weight, turning into crystal, then into a mountain of frozen time. Each layer a page in the Earth's diary, recording volcanic ash, ocean dust, even the breath of ancient atmospheres. But what lies beneath that diary, beneath 3 kilometers of ice, was for most of human history nothing more than imagination. Until one day, the silence answered back. Imagine you're standing on the East Antarctic Plateau, temperature minus 60 degrees Celsius. Nothing moves for 1,000 miles in any direction. Even the light feels frozen, a pale blue halo suspended in air so thin it sings. Beneath your boots, the ice stretches down deeper than the Grand Canyon. You could stack the Eiffel Tower 20 times, and it would still not pierce through to the rock below. And yet, somewhere down there, in that impossible pressure, in that eternal night, water moves. Slowly, secretly, patiently. A river that has never seen sunlight, never known rain, never tasted the open air. It glides beneath the ice, carving unseen valleys, connecting hidden lakes, whispering to a continent that appears asleep but is very much alive. In the 1950s, explorers crossed this frozen desert with dogs and dreams. They called it the Great White Nothing. To them, Antarctica was a void, the end of the world, a place where compasses spun wild and the sun forgot to rise. But the truth, as it always does, was stranger. In 1973, a team of British scientists began scanning the ice with radar. They expected solid reflections, clean, hard echoes from the rock below. Instead, they found something else, something soft, something that reflected like liquid. At first, they thought it was a mistake. Water couldn't exist down there. The pressure, the cold, the time. And yet, the radar didn't lie. What they had discovered would rewrite our understanding of this frozen world. A lake, bigger than Lake Ontario, sealed under 4 kilometers of ice. And it had been there, untouched, for at least 15 million years. They called it Lake Vostok. The discovery was like finding an ocean on Mars, a body of liquid water hidden beneath a frozen desert, proof that life might survive in the most impossible corners of the planet. But more than that, it revealed that Antarctica was not static at all. It was breathing, flowing, alive in a way we had never imagined. Because where there is water, there is movement, and where there is movement, there is life. The ice above may seem eternal, but underneath, the continent is in motion. Rivers slide through bedrock valleys, feeding one another in a vast hidden network that rivals the Amazon in scale. Each current carved not by sunlight, but by gravity and pressure and heat. A world sculpted in darkness. When satellites first mapped these subglacial rivers in the 2000s, they found something astonishing. The water wasn't trapped, it was traveling. It flowed from one lake to another, sometimes disappearing for years, then reappearing downstream. It pulsed like a heartbeat, the heartbeat of the frozen earth. Each pulse sent fresh nutrients, ancient sediments, and maybe unseen life, drifting through this buried ocean. It was, in every sense, the planet's last great secret, and perhaps the most poetic one. Because the purest water on Earth, water that hasn't touched air for millions of years, is moving right now beneath your feet, flowing through blackness, listening to the weight of the world above it, carrying stories of a time when this place was warm, green, alive. If you stand on that ice in the dead of the polar night, you might almost hear it. A deep, low sigh, the sound of a river remembering. Antarctica isn't just a place, it's a paradox. It looks like death, and yet it holds life. It feels motionless, and yet it moves more than we ever knew. It seems eternal, but it's changing faster than ever. This white silence is not silence at all. It's a conversation, whispered between ice and water, between the past and the future. And tonight, we begin to listen. Chapter 2: The Ice That Breathes. The deeper you go, the more the world forgets you exist. Light fades first, then color, then sound, until all that remains is pressure, slow, immense, unending. The ice above you isn't still, it moves, not like wind or water, but like time itself, slow, patient, unstoppable. Antarctica's glaciers creep across the land like sleeping giants, turning in their dreams. A few meters a year, sometimes less, but they move, and in their motion lies the secret to the rivers beneath. Because ice breathes. We think of it as solid, frozen, inert. But ice is a strange thing, a paradox between rigidity and motion. Under the weight of kilometers of itself, it begins to flow, not like water, but like a living body, bending, flexing, stretching. At the surface, where snowflakes fall in fragile silence, the world feels timeless. But deep below, where the pressure becomes unbearable, the crystals begin to shift, atom by atom, sliding past each other like tectonic plates made of glass. This slow movement generates friction, and friction makes heat. Enough heat, in fact, to melt a little of the ice from within. That's where the rivers begin. Not from the sky, but from the weight of the world itself. Imagine holding the planet's heaviest blanket, thick enough to crush mountains into dust. The pressure is so great that water cannot freeze, even at temperatures far below zero. Down here, beneath the heart of the Antarctic ice sheet, the Earth's own warmth seeps upward, a faint invisible exhale from the planet's core. It's not much, just a few hundredths of a watt per meter square. But over millions of years, it's enough. Enough to keep a thin layer of water alive between the ice and the rock. That thin layer becomes a film. That film becomes a trickle. And that trickle over time becomes a river. A river that flows beneath a frozen continent. A river that no sunlight has ever touched. Every glacier carries a secret like this, a pulse beneath its heart. The ice melts at its base, and that meltwater acts like oil beneath a machine, allowing the glacier to slide forward. Without it, the ice would grip the bedrock and stop moving entirely. So these hidden rivers aren't just passengers. They are the very reason the ice moves at all. They are the lubrication of a sleeping world. In the West Antarctic ice sheet, scientists have mapped more than 400 such subglacial systems, networks of water flowing through pressure-carved valleys, connecting lakes, pooling, draining, filling again. Each one is alive, responding to shifts in weight, temperature, and time. When the ice above thickens, the pressure grows, and the rivers surge forward, carrying ancient sediments toward the coast. When the ice relaxes, they slow, pooling quietly in dark chambers of rock. It's a rhythm as steady as breathing. Inhale, exhale, flow, rest. The ice listens to its own heartbeat. If you could drift through that buried world, you'd see colors no human eye has ever seen. The light would be deep, spectral blue, the kind that seems to hum rather than shine. The ice walls would shimmer with trapped air bubbles, tiny fossils of the atmosphere from ages when mammoths walked the earth. In places, the ceiling would glow faintly as pressure turned air into glitter, and below, the water would move with an elegance almost mournful, a slow ballet of gravity and melt. There would be no sound but your own breath and the distant groan of shifting ice, a living world of silence. Scientists studying the movement of these hidden waters often describe Antarctica as alive from below. Because while the surface remains frozen, the base is constantly remade, eroded, sculpted, rearranged. Rivers carve valleys, carry silt, feed hidden lakes, and in doing so, shape the very geography of the continent. Some of these valleys are deeper than the Grand Canyon, buried beneath 4 kilometers of ice. They are invisible to us, and yet they are the skeleton upon which the ice sheet rests. If the ice were to vanish, we'd see mountain ranges, gorges, and even river deltas beneath what we thought was an endless plain. Antarctica is not flat, it's alive with shape, a ghost landscape buried in cold. Chapter 3: The Discovery Beneath the Ice. Every great revelation begins with a sound. Not a thunderclap, not a shout, but something quiet, a pulse on a screen, a flicker of data that shouldn't exist. It was the early 1970s, and a small group of scientists was flying over Antarctica in a twin-engine plane. The world beneath them looked empty, a white desert stretching into forever. Their mission was simple: map the land hidden below the ice using radar. They expected the echoes to come back solid, clean, predictable. The ice would reflect the signal, the rock beneath would return another, a pattern as lifeless as the landscape itself. But one day, the echoes changed. Instead of a sharp bounce, the radar returned a soft hum, a reflection that rippled. It was liquid-like, shimmering, as if something beneath the ice was moving. At first, they thought it was a glitch, equipment interference, atmospheric noise, because how could water exist beneath miles of frozen desert? At those pressures and temperatures, it should have been locked solid for eternity. And yet, the pattern persisted. Each flight confirmed it. The same strange signal, always from the same place, deep beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet. Something was down there, something enormous, something alive with motion. When the results were finally analyzed, they revealed a shape. A basin the size of Lake Ontario, sealed under 4 kilometers of ice. an entire body of liquid water, preserved in total darkness for perhaps 15 million years. They named it Lake Vostok, after the nearby Soviet research station perched above it, a lonely outpost at the coldest recorded place on Earth. It was one of the greatest hidden discoveries of the 20th century. A lake beneath a glacier, a secret ocean locked beneath a continent of ice. And for the first time, humanity realized that Antarctica was not dead. It was whispering. The 1980s and 90s became an age of listening. Every radar pulse, every satellite image revealed new secrets. Scientists began to map a network of buried lakes stretching across the continent. Vostok, 90° east, Sovetskaya, Concordia, Williams. Dozens of them connected by unseen rivers, flowing through pressure-carved valleys. It was as though an entire underwater world had been unfolded beneath the land, a shadow continent within the continent itself. But discovery is never just data, it's human. And the people chasing these signals were dreamers in parkas, haunted by the idea that something was alive in the dark. At the Russian Vostok station, where the temperature once fell to minus 89.2 degrees Celsius, colder than dry ice, scientists lived like ghosts in metal huts. The air crackled with static. Outside, the wind screamed over the snow like the breath of another world. And beneath their feet, 4 kilometers down, lay a lake they could not touch. For decades, it called to them. But how do you reach something so deep without disturbing what it has guarded for millions of years? They designed drills that melted ice with sterilized fluids, inching downward meter by meter. Each day, they measured the borehole's progress, listening for the moment when the drill's vibration would shift, when ice would become water. That moment finally came in February 2012. After 20 years of drilling, the team broke through. A geyser of ancient water surged upward, freezing instantly in the sub-zero air. It was a glimpse into the Earth's most inaccessible ecosystem, a hidden time capsule from before humans, before ice ages, before even the rise of most modern life. When samples were later analyzed, they revealed something astonishing. Tiny traces of microbial DNA. Life beneath 4 kilometers of ice, isolated for millions of years, yet somehow still surviving. Far across the continent, on the other side of the world's coldest wilderness, another team was listening to a different kind of lake. In 2013, a joint US and British expedition drilled down into Lake Williams, a small body of subglacial water beneath the Ross Ice Shelf. Unlike Vostok, Williams was not ancient or still. It pulsed. Every few years it filled and drained like a slow icy tide. When they reached it, they found not just water, but life in abundance. Microbes that breathed iron, sulfur, and even rock itself. life without sunlight, oxygen, or warmth, thriving purely on chemistry and patience. It was one of the most profound scientific discoveries of our time. Because if life could survive here, in freezing darkness, sealed away for eons, then it could survive anywhere on Mars, on Europa, on Enceladus, circling Saturn with its icy plumes. Antarctica, it turned out, was not just Earth's final frontier, it was a mirror for the universe. Every expedition since then has carried that quiet reverence. Radar flights trace ghost rivers beneath the ice. Seismic sensors listen for whispers of shifting water. Robotic probes dive into boreholes, the lights cutting through ancient darkness. Each one returns with more evidence that this frozen world is alive, constantly melting, refreezing, and flowing in secret. And though we have mapped over 400 lakes now, we've only touched a handful. The rest remain undisturbed, still dreaming in their silence. Because down here, disturbance is danger. Even a single drop of modern bacteria could rewrite a lake's ancient history. So scientists tread gently, curious but reverent. They know that what they are touching is not just a place, it is time itself, preserved in water. Imagine it, a lake beneath 4 kilometers of ice. No light, no air, water so pure it never saw a sky. And yet, tiny, patient cells drift within it, breathing through minerals, feeding on whispers of stone. Entire ecosystems sustained by heat and pressure, thriving in the eternal dark. It's humbling to realize we've spent centuries looking to the stars for proof of life beyond us. But perhaps the universe's message was waiting under our own feet. Not light years away, just beneath the ice. The discovery of these hidden rivers and lakes changed everything. It redefined our understanding of what a planet can be: dynamic, creative, full of secret motion. It blurred the line between geology and biology, between life and landscape. And it reminded us of something we'd almost forgotten: that the world we live on is still capable of wonder. That even after centuries of maps and satellites and measurements, Earth can still surprise us. Beneath the coldest, loneliest place on the planet, there flows an unseen world, and every drop of it tells us that stillness is never truly still. Chapter 4: Rivers That Never See the Sun. Imagine drifting downward through 3 kilometers of ancient ice. The light above fades, turning from white to blue, then blue to black. The air grows heavy with silence until finally you arrive. Not in rock, not in emptiness, but in motion. Below the weight of the world, a river is moving. Slow as thought, cold as eternity. A river that has never seen the sun. If you could follow its course, you'd find yourself inside one of Earth's most secret systems, a shadow network of water stretching for thousands of kilometers beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. Not one river, but hundreds. Not chaos, but connection. Each one threads its way through hidden valleys carved by ancient glaciers, joining with others, merging into lakes, splitting apart again, a dark geometry of flow. From Lake Vostok in the east to Lake Williams in the west, these rivers form a buried bloodstream for the continent, a living network that hums beneath the ice like a heart beneath skin. But how does a river live in darkness? How does it move when every instinct of nature tells it to freeze? The secret lies in a delicate balance between pressure, heat, and time. As ice thickens above, the immense weight increases the pressure below, and under enough pressure, the freezing point of water drops. What should be solid remains liquid, held in motion by the invisible hand of physics itself. Meanwhile, the earth below releases its faint, patient warmth, a quiet whisper of geothermal energy rising from the crust. Together, they create a boundary, a thin, fragile line between ice and rock, where water can move, where it can breathe. It flows along this line, a dream of water tracing gravity's pull, from high plateaus to deep basins, seeking always the path of least resistance, as all things do. Sometimes that path leads to nowhere, a sealed chamber, a hollow in the rock where the river pools for centuries. Then one day, the ice above shifts just slightly, a change in weight, a subtle melt, a slow rearrangement, and the chamber releases. The lake drains, and a surge of water rushes through tunnels of pressure, flooding into the next basin downstream. A subglacial flood, a breath. In 2007, satellites orbiting Earth actually watched one of these breaths unfold. From space, scientists saw the ice surface of Antarctica lift by several centimeters, an invisible pulse from below. A hidden lake had drained into another hundreds of kilometers away, its passage recorded only as a slow rising wave across the frozen plain. It was as if the continent itself had exhaled. And yet, for all their mystery, these rivers are not alien. They are familiar. Because beneath the surface of this icy desert, they behave just as rivers do above ground. They erode, they transport, they deposit. They carve valleys and deltas into the bedrock, shape landscapes no human has ever seen, and feed the ocean at their journey's end. If you could map them in light, they would look like veins across a sleeping body, a luminous network glowing beneath white skin. Sometimes, when radar passes over these regions, the returning signal carries faint echoes of structure, the subtle rise and fall of channels, the soft curve of sediment. It's enough to imagine their shape. Glacial cathedrals of ice, their ceilings glittering with ancient air, their floors carved smooth by centuries of slow flow. If you were to drift through one, the silence would almost be holy. Your light would catch suspended crystals, turning the darkness into galaxies of frozen dust. The water around you would move with soundless grace, a slow ballet guided by only gravity's hand. You would feel the weight of the world pressing down, but also something else, a strange calm, as if the planet were holding its breath, listening to itself. These rivers never see the sun, but in a way, they don't need to. They are lit from within, not by light, but by persistence. In the recent years, scientists have realized that these rivers are not merely passengers, they are architects. They influence how glaciers move, how ice streams accelerate, how the entire Antarctic ice sheet shifts over time. A sudden flood beneath can speed up a glacier's journey to the sea by meters each year. A pause can almost slow it again. It's as though the continent breathes through them, a steady rhythm of pressure and release, of melt and freeze, a system of balance so perfect that it feels more like biology than geology. Chapter 5, Life in the Frozen Abyss. When scientists first peered into the waters of Lake Williams, they expected to find nothing. After all, how could life exist here? 4,000 meters beneath the ice, sealed off from the atmosphere for millions of years, without sunlight, oxygen, or warmth. A place where the pressure could crush steel and the temperature hovers just above freezing. But what they found changed the definition of life itself. Under the microscope, the first drops of subglacial water came alive. Tiny cells drifting like snowflakes through liquid darkness. Some spherical, some thread like, some forming strange colonies on grains of sediment. Each one a survivor of impossible odds. They weren't sleeping and they weren't dead. They were thriving, feeding, dividing, evolving in a world where sunlight had never been born. To understand how that's possible, you have to let go of everything you know about life. For us, life means light, photosynthesis, warmth, energy from the sun. But for the organisms of the frozen abyss, life means chemistry. These microbes feed on minerals and metals, iron, sulfur, ammonia, even rock dust. They draw energy not from sunlight, but from the exchange of electrons in the surrounding minerals, a form of existence called chemosynthesis. For them, stone is food, darkness is comfort, and the weight of ice above is simply the roof of home. This discovery of life thriving in complete darkness did more than astonish biologists. It rewrote what we thought possible. Because if microbes can survive here, they can survive anywhere. In the frozen oceans beneath Europa's crust, in the methane lakes of Titan, or in the deep icy caverns of Mars, where ancient water might still linger. Antarctica, it turns out, is not just a continent, it's a time machine, a window into other worlds, a test bed for the outer solar system. The life beneath its ice could be the closest thing we have to extraterrestrial neighbors on our own planet. These samples from Lake Williams contained more than 3,900 types of microbes, some known, many not. Their metabolism was slow but steady, their diversity astonishing for such an isolated place. Some could survive with almost no nutrients for decades, their cells suspended in a kind of patient hibernation, waiting for a brief flush of meltwater to wake them again. Each drop of water was like a gravity of survival, an ecosystem without sunlight, living on whispers of chemical energy and ancient patience. Scientists describe it as the life at the edge of energy, not because it was weak, but because it was efficient. Every molecule, every reaction, every moment perfectly balanced. A lesson in endurance written in microscopic form. If you could see them, these invisible beings, you might not notice them at all. But if you could feel them, you would sense a quiet persistence, an invisible heartbeat in the cold. Imagine a tiny cell encased in a shell of ice crystals, floating in a droplet of water older than humanity. According it, minerals dissolve slowly, releasing faint electrical energy. That energy feeds it, just enough to repair the DNA, to divide once every few years, to continue a lineage that began before mammals even existed. It's not life of abundance, but of balance. Sometimes that survival doesn't always mean struggle. Sometimes it means stillness. It ends the way it began, in silence. The wind dies, the white horizon blurs into cloud, and the great sheet of ice rests beneath a dim polar sky. Everything here moves slowly, so slowly it feels like stillness. But beneath that stillness, the planet continues to breathe. You can't hear it, not really, but it's there. A sound too deep for human ears. The hum of water moving through darkness. The whisper of ancient rivers that have never seen the sun. Antarctica, the coldest place on Earth, and yet somehow one of the most alive. For centuries, we call this land empty, a black space at the bottom of the map, the edge of the known world. And maybe emptiness was just another kind of illusion. Because what we thought was absence was actually depth. What we thought was stillness was quiet motion What we thought was silence was song, so slow, so deep that only patience could hear it. Every river beneath this continent is a memory. Each one flows with traces of time, dust from distant volcanoes, ghosts of ancient forests, the breath of skies we never knew. When you listen to them, you're hearing the story of the earth itself, told not in words, but in movement. A river doesn't speak, it remembers, and Antarctica is remembering everything. Think of what that means for water to move in darkness for millions of years, never frozen, never still, obeying only gravity and warmth, a patient persistence, an eternal yes. Those rivers will keep flowing long after we are gone, long after our cities are fossils and our satellites are dust in orbit. They will continue to carry their sediments and secrets through the bones of the planet, slowly, silently, endlessly. In that way, Antarctica teaches us something profound, that life is not always loud, that existence does not require witness, that motion does not always mean speed. Sometimes to endure is to whisper quietly into eternity. You could say those hidden waters are the planet's subconscious, a dream running beneath waking life. While the world above changes, below the dream continues unbroken. It holds the wisdom of balance, the memory of cycles, the art of endurance. And maybe, deep down, we're not so different. We too have hidden rivers, currents of thought, emotion, memory, flowing quietly beneath the surface. We do carry old sediments of the past, buried beneath layers of time. Unlike Antarctica, our stillness is rarely still. There is always something moving within us, something seeking its way forward, even when the world above us freezes. There's a strange comfort in knowing that the most desolate place on earth is filled with motion and life. That the planet's quietest corner is one of its most vital. That what appears frozen can still remember how to move. It's as if the earth itself is reminding us, don't mistake quiet for absence. Don't mistake patience for death. Stillness is not the end. It's the space between heartbeats. The rivers beneath Antarctica will outlast us all. They'll keep flowing through darkness, through change, through ages of fire and ice. They're the patient arteries of time, and we're just one fleeting pulse within their story. But perhaps that's enough. To be part of their movement, to have lived at all on a planet that still hums in its sleep. So tonight, When the world feels cold and empty, remember this. Even in the deepest silence, there is a sound. Even in the darkest ice, there is motion. Even in what seems forgotten, something still remembers. The rivers beneath Antarctica are still flowing. The planet is still dreaming. And you are part of that dream.